Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, people. Good morning. Listen, welcome back to In the Trenches with Dr. Tammy. Let me just say this, that sometimes even the best, well thought out plans do not go as planned. Woo! Everything that could possibly happen has happened this morning. So your girl is just a little bit behind. I am behind what I wanted to chat about today. I am going to pivot because I just need to talk. And some of you might call it venting. You can call it what you want. But let me just say this. When you have a plan, sometimes it has to change. If you're like me, if you are anything like me, you write everything down, you put it in your calendar, electronically, of course, and then I physically write things down. I am old school. I can't even count the number of huge 5 subject spiral notebooks that I have all over the house with notes. I have them dedicated to wedding planning. I have them dedicated to my online job. You all know I do some professor type stuff with my spare time. Not that I might have any of them, but I do that. I keep notebooks for every single thing. And whoo, I am tickled at myself today because you just have to regroup sometimes. You have to regroup. What I am finding is even in the middle of all of my meticulous planning, I get these outside sources that pop in every now and again. I'm sure that you can relate. You have a plan, you have a thought process. It seems to be going along fairly well. Okay? I am checking things off. And as some of you might call it, I am dotting all of the I's and crossing all of the T's, right? But then someone might give you a call. Someone might ask you a question. And then if you're like me, it's ding, 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 ding. Here comes a new thought process. Here comes a light bulb. Here comes another idea that you are now writing down, that you are now exploring. And let me give you an example. You all know I'm planning a wedding, or shall I say, we are planning a wedding because, yes, he is very much involved. But for me, what I do as I'm there looking at ideas and writing them down, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, checking them off, screenshotting, creating Pinterest, and all of these things, right? I wanted these napkin holders. We found the perfect napkins for our day, right? So here I am. I have an idea. I have an idea of exactly what it is that I want. But then I get a question from someone who's close to me about my thought process and how that should look on the day. What I want the place settings to look like, right? So while I think I found the perfect napkin holder, all of a sudden I have a new idea flashing over here. New idea, new idea. So I'm going down this rabbit hole of napkin rings and how that will look on the table and the place settings. Now, why on earth did I need to start over? I didn't. But there was this brand new idea of how it could look, how it could tie everything together. And While that may seem simplistic to many of you, that is what happens to us on a regular basis. It happens on our jobs. It happens with our families. It happens in our relationships. We have an idea of exactly what we want. We've written it down. We've checked all of the boxes. We have goals that we have set. Then all of a sudden, out of the blue, here comes that one thing or that person who says, did you consider this? Woo! Now here we go. Down that rabbit hole of thoughts. Things that we think we might want to change. Things that we think could be better. And truthfully, many times there isn't really a better. There are just more options. I'm sorry. I'm laughing a lot today because I'm there. That's where I am today. Truthfully, there are just more options. It doesn't mean that it's better than what you already decided, or in some cases, what you have already agreed upon with someone else. It could be at work. If you're working with someone at work on a project, you could have already agreed on the direction that this project should go. It could be your relationship. You have already agreed on something, how this relationship looks for the two of you. Yet what happens is outside sources will come in sometimes. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a person. It doesn't. In your research, if you're looking for something or working on something, it could simply be an idea that you have seen while you are working on whatever it is that you're working on. And in that moment, you decide that your plan was not sufficient. Let me just tell you, we need to stop for a second. We need to stop for a second. We need to regroup. We need to pause and say, do I really need to make these changes? Take a moment. Yes, I close my eyes. Breathe. Because sometimes we need to do that. Sometimes we simply need to slow our roll. Slow down. Think about it and say, wait a minute. What I had was enough. I don't really need these other options. Because if you think about it, considering all of these extra options can often bring confusion. Yes, I said it. Confusion. Not just to you, but to others around you. At work, in your home, with your family, with your siblings even. And most certainly in your relationships. Absolutely. We have to find the time to say, enough is enough. What I have is sufficient. Because as I look back on all of the things that I'm doing, all the millions of words I've written down, all of the notebooks, all of the electronic reminders, I already had what I needed. I did not need to change. And let me tell you how. When I went back and looked at those napkin rings, what I had was already beautiful. It was already beautiful. There was no need at all to make a change. it already met the requirements that I had already set for myself. So while this whole napkin ring thing may seem simplistic to you, I want you to apply that to your life. I want you to look at the decisions that you make each and every day and say, have I found that sweet spot? Have I found what works for me? Is there a need for something else? Because in most instances, we don't need anything else. We are okay right where we are. But we allow social media, we allow our many Google searches, we allow friends and family to bring additional thoughts into what we have already decided was sufficient. Now, I am not saying to ignore all outside information. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is to do this. Do not allow outside sources of information to get you going down that rabbit hole like so many of us have done. Because when we spend that extra time looking at unnecessary things, it distracts us from the things that we actually need to focus on. So you have to bring yourself back or reel yourself in so that you can focus on what's important. That could be your job. It could be your children. It could be relationships with your family. It could be the relationship with your significant other. But whatever it is that we do, whatever that is, we need to not allow things that are not going to make a difference in the long term to interfere or to distract us from the important things in our lives. So yes, plan, absolutely plan. I do. But when you have gotten to where it is that you know you need to be, it's okay to ignore the outside sources. And when I say ignore, I don't mean to be rude or disrespectful if it's a person that's the outside source. What I'm saying to you is that you could say, if it is indeed a person, thank you. Thank you for your input. However, the decision has been made, or I really appreciate what it is that you've said, but I believe that I have already what I need. I may take that into consideration at a later time. There are so many different ways that you can do that. But for the self-inflicted outside sources, like what you read on social media, the things that you Google, the many different carts that you might have open at Amazon or Etsy and all these other places, I'm talking about myself. You need to just stop. You need to take the time to say, I don't need any extra. It only overstimulates us and distracts us from the important things that are already there in front of us. So yes, today we are talking about plans. We are also talking about removing the extra. We're talking about regrouping. We are talking about remembering what is important. So many times we overlook what's important because we see it as the simple things. And quite honestly, it really is most often the simple things that are more important. All of the glitz and the glam, eventually that may be gone away. But those small things, those things that make your heart smile, even if your plan goes south. Yes, I'm still laughing at myself because my plan definitely changed today. And your girl had to pivot. But I'm smiling because in the middle of that pivot, I too was reminded to embrace those simple things, to embrace what's truly important. I look around me and I am blessed. I am most definitely blessed. And in this moment, on this good Friday morning, I am asking you to do the same thing. I am asking you that if you have to pivot from your plan, to look around you and count those blessings, even in the simple things. Pivot when you need to. Ignore the distractions. Embrace the beauty in the small things. And hold on to what's important. That is where we are. Listen to me. That is where we are. That is where we are on this Friday morning. And what I was trying to say is that is what it is. Happy Friday. Happy Friday to you. Please don't let your plan get out of control. Don't allow the need to pivot and make small changes distract you. Do not allow outside sources to interfere with what you know that you need. Plans can change, but if you have what you already need, stick with it. Stick with it on this Friday and every day. Smile through it. You've got this. You've got this. You've got this. Happy Friday. Happy Friday to you. And much, much, much love.